I wanted to just start off and get your take on election fraud, because right now in Florida, Georgia, Arizona, and many other states, people have been, talking about it. People have been noticing, filming, and seeing, strange anomalies with these, voter ballots. I mean, do you really think there's election fraud going on right now?
Well, at this point, I don't think it's even theoretical. So as you said, this is like we're seeing documented instances of ballot boxes found in rental car places and votes being. I mean, the best joke I heard was I've heard of early voting. I've never heard of late voting. So yes, and ironically too, all this appears to be happening in heavily Democratic districts, which is, again, for me, a smoking gun. If you try to analyze things from an objective standpoint, if they're the legitimate reasons they're giving, right? Like, oh no, we just, have to catch up or count this or count that, then theoretically you would see it in a neutral amount of districts, if not 50-50, some sort of variance of that. The fact that it's 100%, like every single district, regardless of the state that's trying to catch up, appears to be a Democratic one. And again, these are all, and then you have this complete maniac ideologue, that woman in Florida who's been confirmed with all these different things over the course of the last 5 years. It's incredible. What I think it speaks to more, without going on a rant, is the amount of cognitive dissonance that not only that ideology and convictions could cause, but the fact that for 2 years, the media that's sticking up for this right now, the Democratic politicians that are speaking up for it, I should say, for 2 years they've been trying to convince these people, the masses, the herd, if you will, that Putin is hiding under their beds, and that Putin is hiding under their beds, and $30,000 or $40,000 worth of Russian Facebook ads stole or hacked. The Democrats' greatest gift is linguistics. They always try to change the linguistics of the pop culture, the zeitgeist. And like I said, for the last 2 years, you've noticed the Russia stole the election, Russia hacked the election, Russia interfered. It's degreed down because they know it's total, BS from day one. So, and now we actually have something legitimate. Doesn't matter if they're trying to count illegal aliens, votes, or just phony vote. All this, it's like all documented, all in your face. The real fraud, and they're saying, no, this is just part of democracy. So they've been trying to terrorize the people for 2 years about the the Russian boogeyman. And now where you actually have legit people trying to steal election, ideologues, etc., then they want to say, oh no, this is just part of democracy. We talk about this all the time. It's honestly like a joke. If you're that blind, if your convictions run that deep that you can't say, oh dude, fraud is fraud, like this is just smoking gun fraud, then you're in a bad place. You're completely brainwashed.
You bring up a very interesting point, because you brought in Russia, and they were, blaming back in 2016 that, Russia manipulated the elections, and they saying, oh, there was an election fraud, and, this is how Trump got voted in. And now if Trump or anybody else says, oh, there's election fraud, they're out there. And I mean, you see the articles like in Washington Post and many other mainstream media outlets where they're saying, oh, no, that's a conspiracy. That's a conspiracy that they're filling out ballots. It's a conspiracy that they found, ballots in back of cars, or like you said, in an Avis rent-a-car. That's a conspiracy. But the Russian the Russian meddling in the election, that wasn't a conspiracy, but they had no evidence whatsoever back then. Today, there is evidence. There's people being filmed. There's people being, tracked, and you could see what they've been doing. And I find this mind-boggling.
Well, like I said, man, first of all, I couldn't agree with you more. And it's almost an insult. So no matter what, right? Especially us on the libertarian side or liberty-loving side, many times you'll see people who are could think clearly, objectively, apply deductive reasoning to and either political party will turn on the neocons, right? So you'll see them, you'll see the libertarian branch of it, the anti-war branch of it, turn on the neocons. That is staying true to your principles and ethics, regardless of which party's in power, right? The commies, the Bolsheviks, the left. I think since Election Day, he's caused such a meltdown, such an unhinged reaction amongst these people. And I don't think this is even hyperbole on my end. I think 20 to 30% of the country has literally lost its mind. These people burning cities, these people burning campuses, these snowflakes, they are so pissed and so irate that they're just emotionally unhinged. And I bring that up not to go down the rabbit hole or divert from the topic. It's that a smoking gun is a smoking gun. All right. The Russia thing was bullshit from day one. But this stuff, when you have dead people voting, when you have, they have Democratic lawyers right now arguing that illegal aliens, the illegal alien votes should be counted. Like, yes. They are so far off the reservation that it's just unhingement. It's all a power struggle. The whole thing's a scam. So even if I was a Democrat, even if I was a commie, even if I was a socialist, I'd sit there and be like, yeah, you know what? Even though I believe in stealing other people's money and redistributing it, yeah, they're trying to steal the election. Like, this is bullshit. I mean, so it doesn't take, I wish these people would snap out of it. Yeah, Trump's very alpha and was mean to us. So, it just caused these people to melt down emotionally. So they will rationalize anything, even if it's illegal. They rationalize riots. They rationalize burning of campuses and cities. They rationalize all of it because they are completely they're dogmatic ideologues. They're lost. They're lost souls. Deductive reasoning doesn't work. Reason doesn't work. Truth, logic, all of it, it's out the window. They're brainwashed. It's bad.
You mentioned truth. I mean, we know that Trump, he signed a memo for declassification of the FISA memos. And of course, it went to the Department of Justice. But eventually, when that does come out, I mean, the truth eventually will come out. I think they're trying to force it out there. And when it does come out, I mean, how do you think these people are going to handle that?
I've had my fingers crossed for a long time that it would. And so we've been dealing with this since, I mean, in my adult life, and I'm early 40s. So we've been dealing with this since the weapons of mass destruction sales pitch in the early 2000s. The bureaucrats, the military industrial complex, the Justice Department, all of them, they could always hide behind the veil of national security. That's their argument for everything. It doesn't matter if it's spying. Doesn't matter if it's war. It doesn't matter if they're whatever. When bureaucrats and the deep state, so to speak, when they are doing things that are draconian, authoritarian, just going after our civil liberties, trying to commit some sort of fraud, they always hide behind the veil of national security. These documents, the FISA warrants, all of it, clearly, again, tying back to conviction and becoming a blinded ideologue, clearly Obama and the Department of Justice were spied on a Trump's election or Trump's campaign, without question. I mean, at this point, it's more smoking gun stuff. It's like, how much more evidence do you need? So if we sent an axiom, a precedence that this is now allowed. I mean, let's put the shoe on the other foot for a minute. Imagine what would happen in 2020 if Trump released the hounds and let his Department of Justice and his people spy on the 2020 Democratic candidate based on gibberish. It's literally low IQ gibberish, what they're trying to sell you. Right. It reminds me, not to tell a joke, but it reminds me of the comedy movie Spaceballs, when Dark Helmet walks into the guy's thing and he goes, there's something you should know. I am your father's brother's sister's former cousin's former roommate or whatever it is. And it because the degree of separation is like 8 deep, right? So that's what made it the line funny. And the Russia thing is that it's like, well, it's all BS. It's all gibberish, low IQ gibberish at that. And those FISA, all that should be declassified. Let it out. What are you hiding? No redacted documents. Let's see it. The truth. There's no greater antidote to all this than truth. Shine it in the light. Let the people see it. It's at the end of the day, not to sound too corny, but they belong to us, the people, the citizens, right? I mean, so right. They could hide behind the national security BS all they want, but it's a scam, dude. Most of the things that these people do is a scam. And this is just another in that, line of scam.
Do you think Trump planned to have Sessions resign so he can put Whitaker in his place?
I think it's one of the most brilliant things he did. So it doesn't matter if it's called the Democrats are going to try to argue that Sessions was fired, right? Because that'll be their argument. Trump's obstructing justice. He's trying to manipulate the Mueller probe, et cetera. Even if it's technically first of all, it being technically a resignation should hedge him against that. Like you can't force Sessions to keep working there, right? So if he resigned, it's brilliant because so what happens the day after the election? The minute the Democrats think, this is all about leverage. So the minute the Democrats think they have leverage, what happens? Sessions quits. New guy comes in. Sessions never should have recused himself in the first place. So the whole Mueller thing is come on, man. All these indictments are either on tax returns it's a joke. The scope of the investigation has gone to infinity, where eventually the purpose of this really is to always have guns pointed at Trump from their side. They always want to have leverage on Trump and point guns at him, and that's with him. And eventually they want to be able to say, we have confirmed that Donald Trump shoplifted a pack of bubble gum when he was 7 years old. So they're opening up Pandora's box to his entire life for infinite amount of history. When the whole scam or sales pitch of why this was initiated was the Russia lie, right? So they're way off the reservation on the Russia thing, and that's by design. So that's why they're terrified of someone being able to rein it in. So again, I would post a Democrat if I was debating him. I would say, so are you telling me this quote unquote independent counsel could operate independently of any oversight? In effect, he's become the most powerful person in the country. He could literally do whatever he wants with no one looking over his shoulder. That's a joke. That's not independence. That's unlimited power. So this guy needed a check in place. So if I'm Trump and I'm a tactician and it's a chessboard, I would say brilliant move. Now you finally got to rein this guy in before the Democratic House was sworn in. That's not obstruction. I mean, obstruction is if he forces the guy to shut it down, but it is a nice check and play. You have to have some sort of check on the special counsel. You just have to.
Yeah, I agree. And with Sessions resigning, Whitaker has about 210 days in this position and doesn't need a Senate confirmation. So that was a brilliant move on Trump's part.
Yeah, well played. And the Democrats might argue it's not obstruction. It's just a really smart political move. Get Sessions, honestly, has been a huge disappointment anyway. Get him out of there and get one of your guys in there. You gave him the job for his loyalties during the election. I get it. But he's dropped the ball in numerous areas. This is just another one of them. So rein him in and get someone in place you could actually trust. And like you said, you don't have to and the Senate's going to be Republican anyway. But you, again, at the time when Sessions got put in there, you still had that was early on after the election. The Republican Party hadn't been unified or galvanized yet. There was still a lot of the neocons in there, the never Trumpers, etc. So now a lot of that has changed. It's a new Senate. The numbers are even bigger, et cetera. So, like I said, man, from a tactical perspective, brilliant move. Brilliant.
Do you think Mueller will ever come out with anything? I mean, has he found anything? Do you think he's ever going to come out with any type of evidence?
Not as it pertains to Russia. not, but dude, that's the scam itself. This whole thing isn't about Russia. It's about leverage. It's about being able to point a gun at the administration the whole time and dig forever about everything. I mean, think about the word track. It's gone from Russia to porn stars, to taxes, to this, to that. The thing is a scam, but they needed the scam. They needed the scam to rationalize everything else. So the special counsels, again, the scope of all the arrests that have happened, all the plea deals, all the BS, doesn't matter if it's Trump's lawyer flipping, any of it, none of it has, if you'll notice, none of it has anything to do with Russia. But they need leverage on Trump. The deep state needs its leverage, and they don't have any, so that's what they're looking for. And again, I use the fictional hyperbole of they need to have his ass against the wall, even if it's for stealing a pack of bubble gum when he was 6 years old. They need something, and that's what they're struggling with. The Russia thing, total bullshit. Everyone knows it at this point. Unless you have an IQ below 80, you know it's bullshit. So they're looking for something, and they don't care what it is. They just need something to be able to check them. Again, that's the only thing that makes sense to me. If I'm them, I'm like, yeah, we got to get him on something. We need some sort of leverage on this guy.
Now, I wanted to switch this all around and move towards the economy here. And I mean, I talk on my reports that Trump has Andrew Jackson hanging on his wall, which I find very interesting. And Andrew Jackson ran on the campaign trail of getting rid of the central bank, and that's exactly what he did. We also see that the economy right now is, it's better than ever. It's like all of a sudden they flipped a switch, they readjusted GDP, the stock market's going up, everything looks great, the Fed is raising rates. But if you really look at certain parts of the economy, and I know with perpetual assets, you deal with the economy, you deal with gold, you deal with investments. When you look at the economy right now and you look at the housing market with, the rates moving up, and you look at what's happening in retail, and you look at everyday statistical information on GDP and everything else, I mean, is the economy moving in a direction where it's improving, or is this just an illusion that they've created?
The truth, first of all, not only myself, but even as a company, yes, we deal in retirement accounts, we deal in cryptocurrency, we deal in metals, right? But what we avoid, and what I tried avoiding, is becoming axiomatic, and especially in speculations and predictions. And I'll tell you why. Because I believe in business. I believe in Austrian economics. I believe in business cycle theory. Yes, the monetarist and the University of Chicago School of Economics has some really valid points too. All of it. Where it becomes difficult, and it doesn't matter the extent of prediction of this bubble. Where it becomes difficult is timing. So if you become too axiomatic and are too certain of exactly what's going to happen, when that doesn't happen, one of the great quotes I've heard is the market could stay irrational longer than you could stay solvent. Meaning that even if if the technicals are right and the numbers are all right, you're like, God, this bubble has to pop. Equities have to pull back. They're on a 9-year bull run. It's the timing is what's difficult, right? So my prescription, both personally, as a firm, we don't tell people what to invest in. Yes, we sell crypto. Yes, we sell metal. Yes, we structure retirement accounts. My feelings personally, not as a fiduciary, but from a personal perspective, is that yes, I think a day of reckoning is coming. The ramifications of 06 to 08 haven't been met yet. They just fire hosed it with liquidity, money, low interest, ZERP, NERP, whatever interest policy they were running that week. But a day of reckoning does have to come. Things, again, going back to business cycle theory, things have to come back to normal. There has to be a purge, so to speak, for assets to be valued fairly, et cetera. That being said, when that occurs, during debt deflation, what should happen is all assets should crash. Commodities, equities, treasury, everything. Well, you could argue maybe not treasuries, but real estate, all asset classes should crash, and money should fly. All the capital should fly into liquidity or treasuries. That being said, so there's one type of hedge someone puts on for inflation, which we hear a lot of people in our camp, the libertarians, the Austrians, they're all like, all right, get metal, get crypto, even equities or commodities during inflation makes sense, right? But I think a lot of the people where I disagree with some of them is you have to acknowledge deflation is real. We've seen it. That's what a crash is. It's debt deflation. The bubble pops and everything crashes, all asset classes. At which point the dollar actually becomes safe until they fire hose it with money again. So I would never fault someone for having a pile of gold, a pile of crypto, a pile of dollars, a pile of Apple stock, spread it out. And it doesn't matter if it's inflation. It doesn't matter if it's deflation. Regardless, the economy is always going in one or two directions, inflationary or deflationary. When it's inflationary, there's one set of things to invest in. When it's deflationary, there's another things. Now, in a perfect world, if you could nail the timing, you'd be sitting there. You would have been sitting there in all U.S. dollars the day before Lehman Brothers crashed, right? And then you would have watched this whole thing just collapse. And then you would have came in with those dollars and started buying equities, foreclosed houses. You would have started, hammering out asset classes with that liquidity. That timing is very difficult to execute. And if you talk to a fiduciary now or some stock guy, you'd be like, yeah, I have an amazing record the last 8 years. Well, everyone does. It's been a bull market since the crash. What did you do from 2006 to 2008? So and I know, sorry to go off on a rant, but it's a complex question. I do believe a day of reckoning is coming. I just don't know when. It doesn't matter who's in charge at the presidency or at the Fed. It can't continue forever. It's the timing that is very, very difficult to predict.
Well, let me ask you, do you think the economy is actually doing better now than when Obama was in office?
From a libertarian standpoint, an Austrian standpoint, yes. In a perfect Trump scenario, he would have shut down the Fed the day after the election, or the day after he got sworn in. But you take away regulations, you reduce taxes, all those things are very positive from a laissez-faire perspective, right? Of course, I'm on board with all that. And yes, the economy is doing better. Yes, labor has been exported from the country the last 30 years. Obviously, they set tariffs, we don't. So all that stuff I like. My only grievance from an economic standpoint with the administration is the central bank. There has yet to be a check on the Fed, meaning that some sort of transparent. Where's the audit? Like I still want, again, the Ron Paul, Rand Paul argument. Where's this audit? Can we see the book? You've been operating for over a century now. We still have never seen the books. So it's the Fed. The Fed is the one glaring. That's when I'll know, like, yeah, man, this guy's 100% legit. In regards to the taxes, love it. In regards to the regulation, love it. The central bank is the one glaring thing I wish something. So yeah, I think the economy is doing better. Obviously, it couldn't do any worse than Obama. The total Bolshevik across every indicator you could look at. But it doesn't alleviate from the fact that we still have, I believe we have a day of reckoning coming for what happened from 06 to 09. I don't think we get to just walk away from that with interest rate policy and expanding Fed balance sheet.
The Fed right now is raising interest rates.
Correct.
So as they continually raise rates, people are saying, okay, we're going to hit this sweet spot of about 3%. And they're saying this is when things are going to start falling apart. I mean, if I go back to 2006, you can see, the Fed was raising rates and then they hit a certain point, and boy, did they just drop them like there was no tomorrow, and things really started to fall apart. I mean, people really didn't notice it back then. They just thought, oh, okay, everything's fine. But in the background, things were really falling apart. Do you think the Fed is doing this on their own, trying to bring down the system? Do you think the Fed is working with Trump? I mean, what are the inner workings here?
This is me speculating. I'm just trying to be logical about analyzing it. So first of all, let's be honest about what they will do. Even as they're quote unquote raising rates, it'll be 25 basis points a pop, so it's going to be, they're going to raise rates in a very linear fashion. They're not raising rates, 200 basis points tomorrow. They little here, a little there, like they'll tippy toe, raising rates. So that's the first thing. In regards to their intentions, are they trying to crash the thing on purpose or not for political reasons? Or are they just doing what they think is right, as quote unquote Ivy League economists? You won't know that until the market pulls back. So if they raise rates and equities hit a certain threshold, then they'll, like you said, like what they did in 06 to 08, they should theoretically, if their intent is to keep this thing going, then you should see them pull back rates again, right? So it's hard to gauge intent until the catastrophe happens. Once the catastrophe happens, if the central bankers usually do is, again, they'll drop rates immediately and start fire hosing liquidity, expand balance sheet, all of it. So we won't know. Me personally, I won't know if it's political. And so they could try slowly creeping up rates, but when it happens, and I mean a real crash, we're like, whoa, the 1,000-day drop or the 1,500-day drop or whatever, then we'll see how they react. If they react with, oh no, we got to stick here, this is good, or we're experiencing inflation, we have to stay. But if they go right back to their free money, then they're not trying to crash it. It was just them experimenting. But so again, until it actually occurs, it'll be hard for me to say if it's political or not. But I mean, Trump, it appears he knows if you raise rates too fast. I mean, he's telling them, I want cheap money, like everyone else, right? So we'll see. We'll see how they react.
What do you mean by a day of reckoning?
You eventually need to take your medicine, right? And so what 06 to 09 was, I don't think we're going to get out of it. I don't think it's behind us. I think we delayed it, if that makes sense. You can't paper over what happened. There's mark to market, and then there's mark to unicorn in accounting terms. Meaning that, I don't know we can't audit the balance. So we don't know what a lot of these balance sheets still look like. They're buried. We don't know if the assets are marked to market or marked to unicorn, meaning a fictional, valuation of what the assets are worth. We don't know what the sea of derivatives that people in our sector always talk about. We don't know what that looks like. And even if you take away all that, right? Let's say you think, no, Gus, you're crazy, that 06 to 08 is behind us. You're talking ancient history. Even if you ignore all that, fine. Let's assume you're right. Let's assume your axiom is right, that your first principle is correct, that we did paper over 06 to 09. Then I still would revert back to business cycle theory, meaning that inflation and deflation are natural occurrences in any economic cycle. And this isn't theoretical. Look back at the last 250 years of this country's history, with a central bank or without. It doesn't matter. So from 1870 to 1910, look at those business cycles. Those were no central bank in place, and the business cycles are are much quicker, but you recover faster too because there's no one printing money. So you take it from 1870 to 1910. If you study those business cycles, the days of reckoning came very soon. The business cycles were very close together. But the people who malinvested, people who invested in gibberish, be it equities or terrible land or whatever, the market took care of them. Their day of reckoning came. Like the asset was worthless. They borrowed a lot of money supply, credit money expanded to buy the assets. People were leveraging whatever. And then the assets got marked to their true valuation. As money and credit retracted, deflation occurs. So without a central bank, those cycles are lumped much closer together and the days of reckoning come quicker, but the recovery is faster. With a central bank, since 1913 till present day, except for the Depression, they usually fire hose liquidity, manipulate interest rates, etc. But those business cycles still happen. So look at every recession and every depression from 1913 to present day. They happen. That's the days of reckoning. That's the market trying to correct the economy. It's not a bad thing. It's just a natural thing. People got rich off nothing, off gibberish. It was a bull market. They could call it a bull market. I say the Austrians refer to it many times as malinvestment. People took out credit, expanded the money supply to buy bad things, be it bad equities, bad real estate, bad commodity, whatever. That's malinvestment. So what happens is once eventually the bid ask gets out of whack and the credit, everyone runs to liquidity, the money and credit retract, and those assets get destroyed. So even if I ignore 06 to 09, we've been on a 9-year bull run. So it's time. Usually the business cycle is 5 to 7 or something. So we've exceeded that already. So it doesn't matter what grade of a job Trump does. Business cycle theories are natural. They happened under, they happened under Reagan too. I mean, so it doesn't matter who's in there between the Fed policy, between laissez-faire, between other things. Cycles happen, and you have to accept them. That's why I when clients I'm going to hold some cash, but that's not crazy. If things crash tomorrow, your cash looks really good, and then you could jump in with that liquidity and jump on those crushed assets and buy them for pennies on the dollar. I mean, don't forget, not only did people get crushed in 1929, not only did people get crushed in 2008. But a lot of people made a lot of money. And I'm not only talking about finance guys who were shorting everything on the way down. I'm talking about guys who got out in time, were liquid, and then jumped on the assets once the crash occurred. Again, you're buying. The purpose of, a lot of people talk about this too, is you want to buy things on the cheap. Too many people buy things at the end of the mania. Like crypto is a perfect example. When I had buddies I hadn't talked to in 10 years calling me saying, hey, I understand you're in this crypto thing. They're calling it Bitcoin's at 18,000. They finally want to get in. Like, dude, where were you at 50? So it's many people, the herd, real estate was the same way in 2005 to 2007. Many people want to jump in at the end of bull runs. And now might be no different. We think as Voltaire said, everything is fine today. That's our illusion. Things are going to crash eventually. At one point or another, a depression or a recession will happen. It's the timing that's difficult to predict. Will it be tomorrow? Will it be in 3 years? That I don't know. But it's inevitable that it will occur again. This isn't happy times forever. This jubilee is not infinite. A day of reckoning must occur at some point.
So what happens to gold? Because I've talked about this many times before, and with many people that gold is manipulated. And we talked a little bit before we went and recorded this. We also know that J.P. Morgan Chase, a trader, pleaded guilty to gold manipulation and turned state evidence. So it's not really a conspiracy theory anymore because we're starting to see proof of all of this. So if gold has been manipulated all this time, where does gold go when the day of reckoning comes?
Theoretically, theoretically, gold it's going to act in one of two ways. It'll either act, and like every other asset, it either acts as a deflation hedge or an inflation hedge. Gold has a unique principle, and forget about inflation and deflation, right? Just think about gold has a unique principle of not having a CFO. It has another unique principle of you don't have to worry if the company goes insolvent. So if you own gold isn't going to pull a Madoff on you, right? Gold, it's sitting there. It's gold is money. Gold is just gold. So where in 06 to 09, we saw a bunch of, Fortune 1000s, vanish. Gold's never going to vanish. Gold is just there. My initial thing, and this is just me acknowledging inflation, deflation. My initial theory would be that gold would crash with everything else at first, just like in 06 or 07, 08. So everything crashes, including gold. But then gold is the first thing when the Fed starts fire hosing liquidity into the market to try to fix things, and everyone sees, oh my God, they're printing money. Gold is the first thing that skyrockets. That being said, dude, we're gold dealers, right? We sell gold and silver, so I'm obviously biased, but I try to remain as objective as humanly possible and say, yes, gold has been manipulated since day one. They have to keep it suppressed through the traders manipulating it or the central bankers manipulating it, because gold is the true peg indicator of inflation and money printing and artificial interest rates, etc. So yeah, they've been manipulating gold forever. A super high gold price lets the world know the central bankers are out of control. So they've always manipulated gold, and they always will. That being said, gold has safe haven attributes outside of, be it from your an ex-wife's lawyer, it's harder for him to find. Be it a hole in your backyard, be it they can't print it, be it has no CFO. So gold is insurance. It's a safe haven from a lot of things. As an asset, as a speculation, again, it should be the ultimate indicator of inflation and calamity, et cetera. So even if a debt deflation, a crash, a Lehman event happens, the initial response of gold, I would think the first week, the first whatever, everyone's in shock at that point, running the dollars, might be to initially go down. But as the reaction of the Treasury Department and the Fed would be to fire hose, then gold would be the first thing of all the assets that would say, they're printing money, bing, you'd see the bid ask run. All that liquidity sitting on the sidelines would jump into gold and say, okay, we know how they're going to handle this. They're printing money. So, yeah, I love gold, but it's not perfect. They manipulate the heck out of it. There's no way gold should still be hovering around this number. There's no way. It just, given all the money, everything else has been in a bull run the last 9 years except for gold. I mean, come on. So yeah, they manipulate it, but we've learned to live with it. Even from a asset class perspective, gold has other attributes. Like I said, I use the joke of the wife's divorce lawyer and all that kind of stuff. Gold has other attributes that are unique to gold. I'll always love it as an asset. It definitely serves a place.
So guys, let me ask you this. I mean, you brought up that gold, because of shock and stuff, when the day of reckoning comes, it might fall and then it might shoot up. Now, if it starts to move up, what is the central bank going to, are they going to try to control it at that point? Because, if it starts moving up and everyone starts piling into it, aren't people going to wonder like, okay, wait, what's going on here? What did the central bank do? Did they mess up? Why is gold moving up like this? Something's wrong.
If we use history as an indicator, look at 2007 to 2010. And I bring up that example because the central bankers and the Treasury, I think, at that point would have too many balls in the air. So the last thing on their mind gold shot up to 1900 or whatever. It touched 19 roughly, right? So I think at that point, the last thing on their mind was gold manipulation because they had bigger fish to fry, right? So they're like, we got to stabilize it. Oh my God, the Chinese. Oh my God, bonds. Oh my God, equities. Oh, so when you have 100 problems, I think gold went on the back burner. Once everything got stabilized, right? They righted the ship or papered it over, or were able to finally correct everything as far as the herd and the masses are concerned. Then they diverted their attention back to gold. They're like, okay, the gold thing got carried away for a while. We gotta bring that back down to earth in a hurry. So I think they would prioritize everything else before worrying about gold. Again, in a day of reckoning scenario, in a black swan event, as many call it, in a depression, in a recession, in a whatever. So yeah, they might try to go after gold again, but I think it'd be the last thing on their plate. They'd be worried about China dumping treasuries. They'd be worried about capital flows. They'd be worried about Fortune 500s going bankrupt again. Like they'd have bigger fish to fry than worrying about gold at that point.
And what do you think about Trump? He's been contradicting the Fed these past couple of months, actually blaming the Fed. If they raise rates, they're going to destroy the economy. Do you think he's setting them up to take the blame for when everything falls apart?
From a political perspective, and politics so often ties into economics and finance, but I obviously am on board with the cultural side of him. I'm on board with the deregulation. I'm on board with the tax cuts. The one thing I wish I would see is him attacking the Fed verbally doesn't mean anything to me. It's talk. What I'd like to see is some good old school Rand Paul type dialogue as it pertains to the central bank. As far as I'm concerned, it's my only, outside of maybe the Syria strike, which might have been BS anyway, just the optics. But outside of the way of the handling of the Fed, again, I would like to either see, in a perfect world, my unicorn, my Christmas list, they'd shut the thing down. But if that's never going to happen, you revert to full transparency. Like, let's see it all. You've been around for a century. Let's see it all. Show me everything you've done the last 105 years or whatever. That would be very nice. Very nice. In regards to if he's trying to play them or not right now, what is Trump's intent? I don't know if he's trying to play. I don't know. I don't know if he likes the cheap money because it keeps this. Obama once had that Freudian slip that was caught on camera with the Russian president at the time, who wasn't Putin, it was the other guy,
right?
Where he said, "I'll have a lot more flexibility after my reelection." Maybe that's what this is all about. Like maybe he asked Trump. Maybe Trump's like, during the campaign, he would acknowledge bubbles, right? He brought up bubbles. He brought up
Yes.
the Fed. He brought it all up during the campaign, all of it, which many people, love, myself included. Maybe he knows he needs this thing no matter what, even if he agrees with everything I'm saying, for example, he needs to keep this thing going at least until November 6th, 2020. And that if he gets reelected and he knows he's got a 4-year clip in him, maybe then the gloves could come off and he could really deal with these people. Maybe he needs that time to, but, and again, this is me totally speculating. I don't have a crystal ball or no, I can't get inside the man's mind. From a tactical perspective, maybe he needs everyone on an economic side. He needs those numbers. He needs those 401ks to stay where they are. He needs those numbers to stay where they are. To get that 2020 reelection. And once that happens, maybe the gloves come off. Hopefully. Again, I don't know. I don't know what the future holds or what's in his mind, but that would be a smart play if that's the way he's playing it from a tactical perspective.